Aina o mākuopo, ina o mākuokiu. O li kukupunoa ne o humea kukumomana. O pele kukuakuala e oku. O kuone e kuakua kamaina. O lonolono mākua huaia. O kane kawaiala me kanaloai. E mali o kualo e. E maya mako Aina, e maya mako Ea, e maya mako Kiaupuni, e maya mako Mano Ka Lāhui. E mana mai pului ko mau pula, a pola pupu, a makaiole, a kaiko ko a palalau halai. E palina me Aina ma palue, a mama, uanoa. I am a Native Hawaiian whose ancestors have lived in these Hawaiian islands for 100 generations. As many of you know, I have long supported the return of the Hawaiian nation to our people and the end of the American military occupation of our country. In 1993, I helped Ka Lāhui Hawai, a Native initiative for self-government begun in 1987 by Lilikala, lead a march of 18,000 Native Hawaiians calling for the return of Hawaiian sovereignty on the 100-year anniversary of the overthrow. In my speech, I called for the closing of the U.S. bases in Hawaii, invited the U.S. military to take their nuclear weapons and the nuclear submarines and the nuclear toxic waste and the military personnel all home to their continent. The crowd cheered madly, but the U.S. military didn't leave. That was 22 years ago. For the past 13 years, I have helped organize and fund Native Hawaiian student delegations from the Kamakakūokalani Center for Hawaiian Studies at UH Manoa to the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues in New York. We go there yearly to ask that Hawaii be reinscribed on the list of decolonizing nations, so that one day we can be independent again under the UN process, which provides a peaceful means for political change. I am not at all interested in violence or armed revolution. For nearly 30 years, I have been teaching young Native Hawaiians about Hawaiian culture, history, politics, and resource management with a view to training the next generation of Native Hawaiian leaders who could run our country as an independent nation. So, why now do I support federal recognition for Native Hawaiians? Actually, I have always supported federal recognition for Native Hawaiians, as that has been the long-standing goal of Ka Lāhui Hawai. We don't see federal recognition and independence as mutually exclusive. We see a stronger political relationship with America as a positive tool to support our people in Native Hawaiian education, language, health, housing, and land rights. After all, if you take someone else's land by means of an illegal military force, you have to pay them some kind of compensation. Even the US Congress agreed in the 1993 apology law that their military invasion was wrong and reconciliation should proceed. Federal recognition should be part of that reconciliation. And we have been waiting 22 years for America to move that agenda along. It looks like President Obama is also interested in supporting reconciliation for Native Hawaiians. He grew up in Hawaii, and he knows how bad it is for us in our own homeland. Now I hear from opposing voices that the rules of federal recognition usually preclude independence. But that is not what is stopping independence for Hawaii. If Native Hawaiians decide that we really want independence, then eventually that will occur. I have no doubt. No matter how powerful the American military, let's not forget that it was once said, the sun never set on the British Empire, and now it does. We never thought the Berlin Wall would fall, and then one day it did. We never expected that the Soviet Union would break up into smaller countries, and then it did. History teaches us that political borders change over time, depending on the will of the people. If Native Hawaiians really want to separate from America, then we will. I am not sure that all Native Hawaiians want to leave America just yet, but that's a fact. However, I want federal recognition before independence. Why? Because we Native Hawaiians are still a minority in our own country. We may be the fastest growing minority, the Native Hawaiians comprising 40% of all students in the Hawaii public schools. But we are not in the majority yet, And of course, you folks know I always say, every Hawaiian baby born is an act of revolution. So keep it up. If we were independent tomorrow, we Native Hawaiians would not control our own country because we do not yet have the numbers. Our independent Hawaiian nation would still be controlled by foreigners because there are more of them. I can't see how that would be different from what we have now under America. Moreover, I just learned 3 years ago that many of the independence activists do not support Native Hawaiian rights to land, to language, to education, to health, or to housing. They want to go back to the constitution that was in place at the overthrow of Queen Lilikalā. I am a Native Hawaiian, and I do not support that constitution written by foreigners. I am a citizen of Ka Lāhui Hawai, and I support the constitution that we wrote in 1987 that supports Native Hawaiian rights. When I tried to find a compromise with independence activists and garner their support for Native Hawaiian rights, also known as indigenous rights as guaranteed by the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, they called me a racist. Here I thought it was a picture of it. But the word race in English is Lāhui in Hawaiian, and Lāhui implies a nation of people who are related. As Native Hawaiians, we all descend from Papa and Wakia, Earth Mother and Sky Father, and as indigenous peoples, we have the right to the lands of our ancestors and the right to speak our language and practice our culture. All the countries of the world at the United Nations have agreed that we indigenous peoples have those rights. In America, indigenous peoples who are federally recognized have rights to land and language, to health and housing, and to education in their own language and culture. I want those rights clearly defined before we become independent with a constitution that does not support Native Hawaiian rights. That is why I support federal recognition. Here is something else. You might remember that I asked the American military to leave, and they did not. But I have no doubt that one day they will close bases in Hawaii because it is too expensive to maintain them here. In America, when military bases are closed, the federally recognized tribe gets first dibs on the return of those lands. If we Native Hawaiians had already been federally recognized when Barbers Point was closed, it would have come to the Hawaiian Nation instead of the state of Hawaii. When I look at all of the military bases, I see housing and schools and hospitals that Native Hawaiians could be using, especially on sacred lands like Mōkapu. That's the land I want, Mōkapu. These lands could be our Hawaiian Nation lands under federal recognition. When the American military looks at Mōkapu, it sees prime real estate and it wants to sell off to the rich foreigners of America. We must not let that happen. We must have federal recognition. We must have Mōkapu. I'm a grandmother now, and I'm tired of waiting for Native Hawaiian government. I want a government now that is not OHA, the state agency. I'd like to thank OHA for all the good they do. It's still a state agency. We need our own government. I want a Native Hawaiian government that can negotiate for land for my grandchildren and land for the 45% of Native Hawaiians, our cousins, who have had to leave Hawaii to escape the great economic hardship here so that they can finally come home. Then we would be double the amount we are now. Maoris in New Zealand have land for their people. Why can't Native Hawaiians have land that they control for our own people? I want a Native Hawaiian government that can run its own Hawaiian Board of Education and school system, where all Native Hawaiian children can learn to speak Hawaiian and practice Hawaiian culture. I want us to have our own hospitals and doctors where Hawaiian medicinal plants and lami-lami are available as a matter of course. I want us to have access to water and land where we can grow the healthy food of our ancestors. We can have all of these things with federal recognition. Let us have an aupuni malama, an interim government that will care for the people, build us houses and schools and hospitals. Let the aupuni malama consider the 7-step process proposed by Ka Lāhui Hawai that will allow our people to hear all of the options of self-determination and let them choose what they prefer. It'll take about 10 years to roll out. During that time, let our aupuni malama negotiate on our behalf with the American military for the closing of those bases and the return of sacred lands. Some have said that the past drafts of the Native Hawaiian Federal Recognition Bill have been too weak and have not given us enough, and they are right. However, Alaska Natives are very unhappy with their federal recognition bill. And once they got that status, they gained the standing to lobby for changes to their original bill. They have done so over 20 times. I have no doubt that once we get our foot in the door, that we will lobby for changes as well, and the Alaska Natives will support us in that endeavor. Why is federal recognition important to us now? Because the American military plans to close bases in Hawaii shortly and make a lot of money selling our ancestral lands to the highest bidder. That is how they will pay for their wars in the Middle East. If we are not federally recognized soon, we will not have a hope of getting Mokapu back, and we cannot let that happen. Why else is federal recognition important to us now? Because Senator Inouye is no longer in Congress to protect Native Hawaiian rights that federal recognition would ensure. Now, with the rise of the Republican Party, that is notoriously adverse to any indigenous people's rights, we are likely to lose all of the good work that he supported in education, in language, in culture, and in housing. We are talking about over $700 million of direct federal funding for programs that have served thousands of Native Hawaiians in the past 35 years. It was federal funds that paid for the building of the great voyaging canoes, Aloha. Federal funds have supported programs for the education of over 500,000 Native Hawaiian students between preschool and graduate school. If the Republicans are successful in attacking Native Hawaiian rights, not protected by federal recognition, the next step will be more legal assaults. I know that many of us are angry at the way America has behaved, and we should be. But we would be foolish not to secure Native Hawaiian rights that we have gained from the American government over the past 22 years. Now is the time for us to press for federal recognition, and now is the time to say that we would have our land for the next 100 generations. Let's get Mokapu back, and Bellows, and Schofield, and Fort Tarusi, and Hickam, and Camp Smith, and Makua, and Puhakuloa, and Mana. Let's vote for an Aupuni Malama.